So you found out that your partner has cheated on you. First, I just want to say how sorry I am. It is truly some of the most devastating news that anybody can ever receive. I know that right now you're aching, you feel hollow, you're confused, you're angry, you're all of those things. But today I'm not going to talk about those big, messy emotions. There's time enough for that. Those definitely need to be addressed. But that's more of a long process. Instead, today, what I'm going to do is give you some small practical tips to help you through those first days and weeks and months after the discovery of infidelity. One of my favorite tips is to take some time to call your village elder, I'll call them. Maybe it's a grandparent, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a mentor. It's that person in your life who has that wisdom that you can only gain through life experiences. And then open up to them. It's amazing how good it can feel to hear about all of life's ups and downs from somebody that has ridden them for so many years. They have this way of putting your current hardship into perspective. So what I want you to do is share with them what you're experiencing, but then just listen. Invite them to tell their stories. Maybe it's about infidelity, maybe it's about something completely different. But when you hear what they've lived through, what they've experienced, and you see that they're still standing, still smiling, still laughing, still trusting, still loving, it gives you hope that you'll be able to do the same. One thing that you can do is change your passwords. Now, there's a practical reason for this. Once you find out that somebody's been cheated on you, you obviously aren't trusting them right now. And so you might not want them to have access anymore to your personal accounts. But I don't just want you to change your passwords to just anything. I want you to change them to something that is a personal mantra for you. Something that speaks to your soul every time you log in. And speaking of that, this isn't a time to shortcut your way around those passwords. Because if you have to type in, I am strong and beautiful, 5, 6, 7 times a day, it's those little moments that eventually will start to build, and maybe you'll begin to believe it. Another tip is to give yourself some space. And this is both physical and also emotional. In a physical sense, you're going to want to feel sheltered, secure, protected. And right now that probably can't happen if you're too physically close to the person that hurt you. If you're still living under the same roof, maybe this is a time for you to move into the guest bedroom for a little while. And while you're there, make it your little sanctuary. Fill it with things that bring you comfort and peace and joy. One of the things that I loved in those early weeks and months was a particularly fuzzy, snuggly blanket. I pretty much wore it like a cape every time I was in the house. Another way that you can give yourself space is by clearing your calendar just a little bit. Now, obviously, real life still has to go on. You're going to have to find a way to function at work or as a parent, but you don't have to do everything. It's okay right now to cut yourself some slack. Are there meetings that you can reschedule? Are there other parents or family that you can reach out to help with the kids? Look for those ways that you can just take a little bit off your plate right now, because you're going to need some time. You're going to need some space, and that's okay. Find a photo of yourself doing something that you love. A photo where you look genuinely happy, where there's a real smile not only on your lips, but in your eyes. Maybe this is a photo before you met the person that cheated on you. Or maybe it's just a photo of you in that flow state doing something that you love. Whatever it is, once you locate this photo, post it where you see it. Maybe you make it your wallpaper for a little while. Maybe you put it in a frame on your desk. But put that picture there as a reminder that you were happy and whole before, and let it be inspiration that you can be happy and whole again. One of the things that happens when we've faced devastating news and that we're grieving is, make no bones about it, dealing with infidelity, it's grieving, is we forget to breathe. Instead of taking full, deep breaths, we tend to breathe very shallowly. In fact, I bet you're doing it right now. I bet your breaths are only occupying those top few inches of your lungs, your shoulders tight around your ears. The problem when we do this is there's a feedback loop between the brain and the body. And so when you're breathing like that, you're also telling the brain to be stuck. So find ways to invite the breath in. I know for me in the beginning, I tried to meditate and it just simply wouldn't work. I was too agitated to relax. And every time I tried to slow my brain down, that's when it seemed like the hardest memories would seek that opportunity to overwhelm me. So what I did in the beginning to breathe was intense exercise. Exercise so intense that I was forced to take those big, full inhales. And also exercise so intense that I couldn't think about anything else other than where the next breath was going to come from. But maybe you find meditation works for you, and that's awesome. Maybe it's yoga. Maybe it's just doing some breathing exercises, intentionally focusing on your breath. Whatever it is, make it a daily practice. Set a reminder. Make it a priority. You're worth it. For the next foreseeable future, the betrayal and the details and the repercussions are going to be at the forefront of your thoughts. That's inevitable. But they don't have to be your only thoughts. This can be a wonderful opportunity to create a manageable and completely unrelated goal for yourself. I set for my goal running my first race. I signed up for a half marathon after being a late in life runner and never running any sort of competition before. And the benefit of signing up for that race is it gave me something to focus on that was safe, so to say. Something that wasn't tied to the betrayal or to any of the emotions. Something that I could turn my energy towards, and something that was a healthy outlet that I could fill my time with. So I invite you to find your own goal. Doesn't have to be race related. Just whatever it is, make sure that it's something with a relatively short timeline. Thinking something you can finish within a year, and something that is completely unrelated to the infidelity. Because remember, you are way more than just a person that was betrayed. We often hear the advice to, dress like you mean it. But there's some truth to that. I definitely went through the first several months putting on clothes only to, meet the basic decency standards. I don't know if I ran a brush through my hair for the first month, and I certainly didn't put on any makeup. And then one day, probably about 8 or 9 weeks after discovering the betrayal, I decided that I was tired of looking like that. Heck, I was tired of not looking at myself at all. And so I pulled out one of my better outfits. I actually styled my hair. I took the time to find earrings, only to find out that I had to re-pierce my ears because the holes had actually closed. And I put on just a little bit of makeup. And I looked at myself in the mirror. And by looking differently, by looking like I mattered, by looking like I cared about myself, I found that I actually did care a little bit more. I had a little bit more confidence. I had a little more belief in myself that I would make it through. I listened a little bit less to the harsh words that he had said about me, and instead started to believe that I actually was worthy. So that's another thing that you can do, is take those few minutes, even when you don't feel like it, and make the effort to look like you do care. Because when you look like it, you start to feel like it too. You're worth that attention. Limit your social media. I definitely am a proponent of blocking the person that hurt you, at least for a period of time, especially if you're not with them right now or you're taking a break as you figure out your next step. You don't need to be bombarded with those pictures and those images. But that's not the only way that social media can harm you. Everybody curates their social media feed, and so you're seeing the best parts of everybody else's life. You're seeing their highlight reel. And you're comparing what they want you to see with how you're currently feeling and the reality of your life right now. And when those two things collide, it has a tendency to make you feel really, really bad, and often send you into kind of a downward spiral. So this is a wonderful opportunity to take those apps off your phone. Give yourself a break. Give yourself a breather. Really, it's another way of giving yourself some space. And then one last tip of something that you can do right now when you don't know what the next part of your life is going to look like. And that is to take out your calendar and make sure that you have at least one smile, as I call them, scheduled every week. So a smile is simply something that you're looking forward to. It can be so, so tiny. It can be, going out to lunch at a deli that you absolutely love, or getting your nails done, or going for a walk. Those things that you might be doing anyways, but make sure to put them on your calendar in advance so that it's something that you can look forward to. These can also be more major things. That's up to you. But if you make sure that you have, at least 4, 5, 6 scheduled smiles on your calendar at any given point, it helps to remind you that how you feel right now is not the way that you will always feel. And then even now, while you're hurting and while you're confused and while you're dealing with all of those messy, messy emotions, it's still okay to live. It's still okay to have those little moments of happiness.